On today's adventures, we have this pile of Ford parts that we're not working on, but we are working on this pile of Ford parts. So somebody reached out to me. They had somebody else working on a Ford project for somebody that was doing it kind of on the side and just doesn't have the time to finish it. And so I'm stepping in the middle and kind of going to get after it. They have all the paint, they have stuff. They've been block sanding a little bit on it. There's a handful of some small dents and some low spots throughout that definitely needs some attention, but it's not real bad. I'm hoping to, that one's a pretty good one. That one's a pretty good one. I'm hoping to kind of knock it pretty fast and do a pretty decent paint job for the guys. It shouldn't be too bad, but I'll take you along for the ride, show you what this paint job's going to turn out being. We have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of sanding, so this video will be cut up in parts. I'm not going to show me sanding, but we've got hours and hours of sanding to do to it, and then we're going to put a white sealer over the whole thing, and then a lot more sanding, and then get it ready for some paint and color. So let's make this cool old Ford look some pretty cool. I'll get right after it. Let's see how this goes. All right, so we've been sanding away for a few hours. First off, the previous person who's been working on this, no hate on. You know, they've got a lot of body work done. They must have done a lot of body work and then put the primer and then put the guide coat on. They had most of it blocked down with 120 and had everything kind of blocked out. So they had a nice crosshatch going on and everything. I've crosshatched it with a 220 and then a 320. And now we can just go along. I take a pencil and you can kind of just see the dark spots of the guide coat. That's low, that's low. Right here, this is actually high. So that's a tall spot. We're going to have to take the little denting hammer and dent that down a little bit and then put a little filler in to get it the perfect shape. But what I like to do now is I take 80 grit so I have a good harsh bite for the filler, and I sand the spot down so that I'm going to get a good bite, and then I circle and put an X. That way I know that's exactly where I need filler, and I use a good pencil. And right there, right there. And I just go along and I do that kind of everywhere. You can kind of see that one's a fairly low spot. You got stuff like that there, couple in here. This whole back tailgate's had a handful, couple on this top edge, couple along through there. I'm not going to worry about this center section at all because there's a plate that goes over the top of that. This side's actually really good shape. There's a pretty good one there. There's a good one right there. There's a little tiny guy there. That's our door lock. That, I'm probably just going to massage that out because that's just kind of from where the handle is. You put filler in that and there's a good chance it could crack from opening and closing and slamming the door. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'll probably just more work the metal. Couple little spots up on the hood, up in here and up in here already. So I'll work all those down, blow this thing off, wipe it down, start putting a little filler, and then I can start sanding the filler. You know, I've had vehicles that came out of body shops where they've been sitting forever and someone had been working on it. They said, it's ready for paint. And I ended up spending 2-3 weeks on body work and reworking stuff and pulling. And this is really not that bad. This is really good, mostly for the year truck of what it is and what he's wanting to work with. It looks absolutely fine. We've got some small body line things I'm going to have to massage and work out. But yeah, there's a handful of spots all the way around it. I mean, technically I could fill these spots, block sand it down, throw sealer, throw paint on it, and it would probably look just fine. We are going to go that one step further. I'm going to work these spots out, put filler and everything on, massage it the way I like it. We're going to put one more coat of primer over the whole thing, and then I'm going to wet sand that primer. and we're going to wet sand the whole thing down, and then we'll throw color on it. It'll just take it to that just a little bit nicer application. And it's one of those, it's been brought this far, I might as well take it that little bit extra step. Alrighty, so I've got my spots marked out where we're going to be putting some filler, but some things that you want to do is, like, you got a nice body line right here. I'm going to put a little bit of tape right on that body line so that when I put my mud up against it, I pull the tape off, it'll actually sharpen and make that body line look a little bit nicer. Then you have stuff like this, that there's a dent actually in this body line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tape on this side of it. We're going to fill the dent and get something here, and then we'll pull that off, put tape back over the material that's been worked, and then put another layer this way. Maybe have to do that twice, and that will build that back in. Stuff like this where there's a little dent right on that inside or that outside line, I'll put a little piece of tape here just so that the mud won't go across. I'm also going to put some tape here just so I don't get mud in that door jamb. And stuff here, like there's a nice dent right on the top edge of this, so you'll just go along here and put that on the body line, so as the mud goes up against it and we peel that off, it'll make the body line even sharper and look nice and clean. Same thing here. So I'm going to go along the whole rig, put little pieces of tape anywhere that I have filler spots going next to a body line so that I can keep the body lines and or make the body lines sharper. And one other thing that I'm going to do is, just before we put filler on, now it's been blown off, I will take a little bit of a rag with some reducer and I just kind of wipe the area so that my filler has something good to stick to. And then if my pencil mark is gone where I might think I won't see it, I can just do a quick little mark. But prepping that area, getting it wiped and clean so there's no dust that's going to kind of affect where the filler will stick, so that we get a good adhesion, because you want that filler to really stick into that area. That dry dust and thing that's in it is going to prevent that from sticking. Here I can put a mark on my tape, because my tape is what's telling me that it's there. And I'll keep going around wiping that off. One thing with my filler, I'm a little fancy with using a little piece of cardboard. I also leave the filler up by my up by the shop heater where it gets really warm, so the filler flows really nice. It's a lot nicer to work with this stuff when it's pretty warm. It also helps get the air out of it, helps it flow a lot nicer. I'm not going to be doing a lot. We're just going to be doing small spots. It's a lot easier to make some more. So I'll just work with that for right now. Put my hardener on. Let's get that stirred up. V for victory. So, like I said, before the tape, you just put it up against the tape, kind of push it out. I also use a different paddle from the paddle I mix with, and you also want to make sure you crisscross your patterns when you're mixing so that you don't get any filler, unevenness of your filler where it was setting up. You want to make sure that that's filled nicely. I'm not doing a good job putting this on today. And while the material's still soft, you want to pull the tape right away. That gives you that nice sharp line. I just ran out of filler for doing that area, so I'll need to make another spot for that. But before I make more filler, you can kind of see how that really defines that body line. We take off all our little pieces of tape. I also missed that spot. Got something up in there. We're a little thick on that. We can take that off. There we go. So now I can mix up a little bit more and hit the spots I missed. Okie dokies. So that's all our little spots. Peel our tape off of that guy. And now we can toss our cardboard. Let all this set up. I am not even going to hit this with 80. I'm probably at most going to just be 120 and then 300. Then we'll go back by. We'll see how low any of the spots are. Hit them a couple more times. There's a lot of times they won't be good at the very first pass. Some of those were really tiny, and I put the filler a little thicker than it needed to be. So it should sand right out and block out to where it will not need anything more than just that one spot. But let's let that dry, then we'll sand and move to the next step. Okay, so we've sanded everything with some 180, then 220. So every spot with the filler has been sanded and hit. We still have, those are nice and smooth things there. I have found a few more, like I found a nice little denny dent right up in that top edge that needs to be fixed. The top edge of this tailgate is still a little low there. So I'm going to have to address that one more time, address that one more time, address that one more time. That front corner fender, it still needs some love. So we'll get a couple more coats on that. But for the most part, every little spot that's been hit has been feathered out nice and been block sanded, then DA'd, then block sanded again. So that is touching up the fillers. I'll do that a few more times. No reason to really show that. But then we'll blow it out, clean it, and go to the next step. The outside was looking so good. I blew off the roof, and every circle is a dent. Oh, so yeah, we're gonna blow and clean this off, and I thought they were moving right along. The truck was looking good, but I got some roof work to do. Well, we'll let that dry, and then I'll sand the hell out of it and do it again. That'll probably take 3 times minimally to get it even somewhat flat before I can put primer on. But the rest of the truck, I'm somewhat happy with. It's coming out pretty smooth. All the little spots are leveling out nicely, and a good coat of epoxy primer on the whole outside is going to make it all look good. I just, yeah, we got some work up there to do. Most of that will sand off or sand through, but all right, one more step. Well, after multiple sandings and a couple other layers, that's the roof. It came out really nice. And if you really look, the original pencil marks that I circle all the little dents, you can start to see the pencil marks kind of showing through. And that's how thin the material is. It really isn't a ton of filler up on the roof to fill the dents. It was just those dents were definitely there once you blocked it out. So it just takes that, tiny layer over everything else. But you can see that pencil mark through, and there's absolutely nothing there. So now once it's masked off, I will throw a thick coat of primer on top of this, probably 2 or 3 coats heavily on just that roof, and then 1 or 2 coats over the whole truck, so that we'll then come back and wet sand, and we'll wet sand it off. We'll go back to cleaning. We're going to clean the whole booth out, prep everything, wash everything down, get everything clean, and then we'll start prepping it for its final primer. We are wiping and we are cleaning, you're not helping with that tail. And we are getting it very close to paint. We have final mask, things like that. But I wanted to show a couple things. I've had 2 or 3 spots on the truck that I've noticed after pressure washing or I've nicked that I've hit, and I hit like the paint just flaked off. So the previous primer or previous paint on top, so I've had to bevel that down. I've had 3 or 4 spots like that on the truck that the previous primer, I don't know if they didn't put a self-etching primer on it or what they did to the bare metal, but it's like if you get underneath, the paint kind of lets go quickly, which I'm slightly concerned for the whole truck, but I'm too far past that at this point. This is where we've masked so I can open my doors, do kind of a jam effect, and then paint the doors half and half to get that done. So there we are, wiping and cleaning and wiping and cleaning. We've got the tailgate kind of hung up that way. I want to mask the inside of the wheel wells off and make my plastic tonneau cover. And then from there we will put another sealer primer on and then start paint. But let's go check some other things out. Alrighty, boys and girls. Tailgate's hung. Cowl is hung. We have clean filters in our ventilator. We have a bumper wrapped in plastic because they want that a white like the truck, but I am not going to put a base coat clear coat on a bumper. They're just going to scratch up, you step, you use, whatever. I have some single stage paint I hope will match. We're going to throw that on it right after the clear is on, so while it's still a little foggy and clear in here, I'll switch over, switch guns, and throw a couple coats on that. We have everything masked. We have our wheel wells masked up underneath so I can spray that upper lip. We have our tonneau covered on, everything going that way. We have it dropped off the back in the back. Tail lights are masked off, cleaned up. We've swept and cleaned the floor one more time. We'll turn on some lights. We will take our our surface cleaner. That one. Where's it? Surface, prep surface. We'll take that. We're going to wipe it down minimally 2 times. We'll wipe everything off with that. Once that's all wiped down, we'll fire up the hose, get this whole floor wet. And the next time you see me, well, or this hand, or probably this hand, this is that's the gun hand. We're going to have a gun, mix up some paint. Let's throw some freaking color on this thing. Let's see how it's going to come out. I was about to turn on the hose and water the place down, but when you flip this little lever up, that's not going to be enough to make the floor wet. I need to get a standing water floor and keep rinsing the floor as I go. And the water people are out in the main streets. They got the ditches tore up and they're working on the water main. So I've got to go get some extra water buckets that I have, and I'm going to hand dump water around in the floor just to keep the dust down. So one more obstacle for the day, but we're going to fight through it. So with no water, we will very gingerly dump some water out here so I'm not splashing water on the vehicle. And then I'll take a broom and I will push the water around. It's always something, isn't it, folks? Why can't I just have my hose working? All right. Basically, you just want the water so as you're spraying down any dust that might be on the ground or below. And then as you're painting, the dust from the overspray has a place to settle, and it settles down in the water, doesn't get on the floor and turn into dust as you're walking around. It's not like I got a big fancy downdraft booth. It's just a big concrete floor. Now that'll be it. That'll work. So, chrome base, it's pretty much a nice bright white. So that's pretty cool. That's a solid white. Should be an easy blend, fixed color. The second color is going to be a little interesting. We are doing a two-tone stripe to this guy. We do have everything set out. We have our water on. We've got things closed up. I still have to open my fresh air intake to bring fresh air in here. Let's grab my respirator and let's start with jamming out. Got our handy gun. Ventilator's turned on. We're going to start with just a little bit of the jams in here. Real slight and real light. Just get up underneath on that. We'll get the backside in here. Not going to be perfect coverage. Once we close the hood down, it's just going to be what it's going to be. I like to get up under the bottom edge. That way we're just covering up all that primer. So when you open the hood, it just doesn't look horrible. And we'll just dust one quick coat of clear on it after we close that down. We're just going to keep it at that edge. Now let's do the doors the same way. These doors are definitely going to take 2 coats to have a decent look. I'm not going to worry too much about the hinge area. Let's do the other side. The booth should have cleared out by now. We'll show where we're at and what we got going on. Yeah, it's a little foggy still. This Chroma Base White, whew, it's strong in here, does not cover worth a poop in my opinion. We've got 2.5, almost 3 coats on everything that we want white. This center area in here is a 2-tone different color. So I used up all the paint they gave me, and the supply house locally that used to carry this paint, he bought this a couple years ago. They don't even have it anymore. So I have a tiny bit left in my cup for touch-ups, but that's all I got. So that's also why I didn't do a good heavy coat over. One thing, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, white base coat, I mean, even when you do a base coat, clear coat, it makes my stomach sink every time, because if you really look across it, you can see the light sanding marks underneath base coat. And you think, oh my God, I didn't wet sand good enough, or I used too thick of an etch. Even if you Scotch-Brite, you'll see those Scotch-Brite marks. And then when you put the clear on it, it just disappears. The clear will disappear at almost every time, but it still kind of freaks me out. But let's go show what the second color is and look at that. So here's our second colors. So the stripe in the middle is this heavy silver, which actually, the white with the silver, that'd be kind of a cool look, but that is not the look we're going for. And you can see how long this paint's been sitting. It's separated pretty heavily. So this is going to take lots of stirring. But we had to spray this on first. So this has got to get sprayed on, and we need 2 good coats of this coat of silver. And you really see it's a heavy pearl metallic. A lot of pearls inside that silver. And then on top of the silver, we are spraying this candy orange. It is a bright, it's a real translucent, it almost looks bright red here, but it's a bright orange. So it's that metallic silver with that orange on top of the silver, and the more orange I put, the darker it's going to be. So it's kind of up to me on color. So I saw the chip that they kind of want to go with. It's a really, really bright orange. So that's the other downside, is you can never fix that, because how many coats of this to how many coats of that, or the overlay passes and overlaps of the gun and how the pattern your gun is spraying is going to kind of change the color of it. And it's also going to look really cool where it's going to change color kind of in the sun and as it moves. But we got to let that dry. We're going to give it a good flash and a good dry on that. I'm going to give it a couple hours. And once that's dry, we'll go in, we'll mask our lines off, we'll do our two-tone stripe, and we'll go step by step. So I'll show you something in a couple hours. It's dry enough now to start on our masking. I normally do not like to touch vehicles with my bare hands because the oils from your fingers can contaminate from coat to coat, but I've got to do a bunch of masking and trying to put vinyl tape or Holden tape with vinyl gloves, things like that, it tears off. Now, the two-tone line on a Ford, if you went to this high point line to this high point line, is kind of a thing. I've also seen it inside this groove on the top. And so it's hard to tell, because in here, if you go on this line and come across, and then you're this color down, or if you're up on top this body line and you come across, it's, you know, that color. So it's just one of those things that I think I'm going to go inside this line and be in here, and then we just kind of come straight across, and then we're going to be this high line here, and then we're going to do the two-tone color on this also. So that's also going to be the two-tone color. So I'll start masking down there, and then we'll work our way out. So I think for our striping purposes, we're going to mask in here, go right on that 45 edge, and then we'll mask all of that. And I like to pull long strips so that I'm not going up and down, and so you get more of an even stripe. And you got to be inside that seam. And I can tell with the way my fingers are, see how I've totally missed that. We'll do it again. That's the fun of this. Actually, this tape is not doing what I want. I might have to do little strips at a time. And then we'll tear it so we can mask into that cab. I'm low here, high here, low here. So that's not quite right. Yep, way low. From here that way, it's low. Let's get that stripe in there. And then we're just going right off that groove, straight into there. That's our base stripe. We've masked off and jammed inside the doors, so the overspray won't go that way. We still need to open those to get that, and we'll pull out paper and plastic down over the top. So that is our stripe. We're going to keep that color on that bottom. The orange will be down in there. Get the plastic on. Now, like plastic, make sure it says paint this side out, or the paint will actually flake off the plastic when it hits it with the air. And you don't want chunks of paint falling on top of the other chunks of paint. So that's got to be very gentle. You got to make sure that blue doesn't overlap the yellow. That's also what's nice about using two different colors, so that you're getting your masking just right. And then over here we will tuck it in, tape that down. I stuffed paper down between the box so that when the paint goes through, we don't get overspray color blowing up over the back window or anything on that back side. because I do not have enough red paint, or enough white paint to do a second coat of any kind of touch-ups. I only have a tiny bit, so I got to make dang sure that I don't have to do a bunch of touch-ups. And now that's the tailgate mast, which really there's not much you're going to see once they put the plate on that, but that's going to give a little bit of color through there. We've got lower rockers done. We've got that done in there. We've got paper in here so we don't get overspray through here. We've got that entire area in there masked off, so we shouldn't get overspray up in. I've got a little bit of white base left if I have to do some touch-ups, but got to make really darn sure that that's good. We're going to tack cloth it off, fire up that silver, and let's get a coat of silver on it. And let's put the silver down the whole thing. This is a really, really heavy silver with a lot of pearl and metallic in it. So we definitely got to keep it shaking while we're going. So let's turn on the ventilator, get the gun going. Ooh, that lid just popped loose. Started our tack back tail light. I've tacked it off already. So let's see what we get. To be honest, I would like just this color. I think that on the white would look really, really good. Here's the one coat of the silver. Now it's a little tiger stripey, but a lot of that is this curtain with the light shining through the curtain. So it's the shadows of that. But one thing I did notice, I don't know if we can see them, we got some pretty good scratches right through there that didn't quite get caught from the wet sanding primer. So we're going to let this dry for a little bit. I'll take some wet sandpaper and I'm just going to lightly sand that, Scotch-Brite it off, clean it, and then when my next coat of silver, and then there's a couple coats orange, that will get rid of that. Couldn't be in a better spot to be able to hide it. Little bit of some tiger striping lightness in here. So that's for the first coat of silver. That's not bad. It's definitely going to take 2 or 3 coats of silver to get it nice. So let's get that fixed and let her dry, and then I'll put my next coat of silver on. So there's where we wet sanded it. You can kind of see now the scratches. You can really see that one, and those were pretty deep, but now those are basically filled with just the silver to the white that was there. So now let's grab the gun. We'll put a light dusting over just that area, and by the time we come back around and grab the whole thing, and with this heavy pearl, you got to keep shaking your gun so that it evens that out. We want a nice wide fan. And let that, it's going to take some coats, so you don't want to overcoat that or put too many on there. You're going to get a run. I just got to hit that and get away. Well, there is about 3 to almost 4 coats of silver. It took a pretty good coverage to get a good even pass, get rid of any kind of tiger striping and colors. Our repair area looks great. Matter of fact, that area was so cracked when I sanded it, went all the way down to bare metal. I actually had to reprime and spray that area. You can see some bumps. Those are actually the pearls or the metallics that are piled on. But we've been wiped it off. Let's get our, I just saw something over here. That tape was curling right there. I'm gonna push that down. Well, let's grab our candy orange. This is the candy orange. You can see how translucent it is. It doesn't even really stain the side of the cup. I've got some mixed up in the gun. Let's go down over here and see what one thin pass of the candy orange does to it. Gotta be careful of that. We want a nice wide fan. There we go. That's one pass. I think it'll take about 3 to get the right color. It's been a few minutes. Booth cleared out a little bit. Here is our orange. We have 3 coats all the way around. Now the scary part of demasking and seeing how it looks. Those stripes are from this curtain. All right, here it goes, nothing. A nice bright contrast. Looks good. Look at that. Let's see what this bottom looks like here. Now the scary part of this door, and demasking in there. So that is the door. We have a nice white, clean line there. I just pulled that cardboard out from in between there, so we do not have a bunch of orange overspray going real far there. And now there's that. Nice. Oh, a little bit of, oh, that's just dust. Perfect. All right. That's looking really nice. I really like that. We got a little bit of that's just some dust right there. But in both spots, exactly the same here. We've got a little bit of a bleed through. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a little bit of tape. We're going to come in here, put it right on top of that. Get my shakes to come in line. Cover that line up. And then I'm going to put some tape, some paper here. I'll mask off some paper. We'll take the gun with a little bit of white and we'll just dust that. And it's the same on both sides right there. So we'll get that. Throw a little white paint right over the top of it just to freshen up that edge. That'll make that look a lot nicer prior to the clear. So I'll take the airbrush and I'll just airbrush a little bit of that. So let me get some paper on that. That's the only two spots I really see. And then we will tack cloth it, wipe the whole thing down with a tack cloth, and start throwing clear. Here's one of my favorite guns. I can adjust the tip way down on this, get my air pressure almost to nothing, and I can pretty much write just like come in here, and I can just literally have very fine detail to it. So I can just do a couple coats. It's going to take a few to cover that. That's a pretty bright orange. We don't want a big heavy run or anything. Come over this other side. It'll probably take 3 or 4 times. There we go. I'll just do that 3 or 4 times until that until that orange is gone. So after a couple hits, we just demask that. And now we have a nice sharp line. We are officially ready for clear. I'm going to start just like I did the white. I'm going to come down over here. We're going to open the door. I'm just going to do a light dusting of clear around the door jamb, and then close the door down, do the other door, and then we'll start from the back and work our way around. And I'm really excited to see the clear on that orange. It should look really pretty. So let's get the jambs done and then I'll work to the back. Never mind, I just saw that. I now need to adjust that, and I already have our clear mixed, so I got to get on that really fast and see how fast I can fix that. I think they had too much bare metal. Not that original primer or what they did for original primer. I'm a little scared of, but see what I can do on that. Well, there it is, our first coat of clear. That orange looks really nice. She has a nice pop to it. The white's nice and shiny. Any of the surface scratches I was concerned about definitely are sealing in nice. But now the tailgate that peeled right through here, I've sanded that down, just put some primer on it. I'll take some white, I'm going to retouch up that whole front base, and then hopefully before I run out of clear, I can bring it back inside the booth and clear it with a little bit. There's not very much material there. I just have what they gave me. I'm using what they supplied, so hope I can make it work. Ha! I can't make this shit up. I was cleaning up. I had my one gun that had a little bit of the orange paint left in it when I was trying to hit that one spot that I shouldn't have even done. But I disconnected my gun as I was coming over here. I popped it and it blew orange paint over the top of this, and then I just fired up white, blew some white over all the orange drops, and took the tiny bit of clear that was left in my cup, dumped it over the top of this. So now I can let this bake, and I get to fix this and that side and hope I have enough. So right there. All right. The rest of it looks really good. It really does. The truck does look really good. We're going to get all that done, taken care of, and it'll buff out. It'll look nice. So I'm going to go to bed, get in here in the morning, and let's hit it. All Good morning, Rusty. We got a little snow blowing in the air. It's a little chilly this morning, and I gotta be honest, I am just been kicking my butt. I am a little mad at myself. Morning shop. I was in a hurry. I was rushing things, and I didn't have the proper paint that I needed, or enough paint, so I was trying to get everything done. You should do proper dry cycles on stuff. Let's pick up some gloves here. And it's just one of those things that you try to rush it, you're going to have problems. I should have just walked away last night or yesterday when it started having little things, but I kept trying to push through. And now I've got a tailgate to redo and a box to redo. It's nice and hot in here though, so that's not bad. The wrinkle's just a little bit there, didn't sag out bad. This paint feels nice. There's also an orange flake that got up in this, so I have a little tiny run right there. So I'm going to wet sand a bunch this morning, and then we'll mask things off. This side feels really nice. Oop, got a little run right there also, so I can work on that. So there's where we are. Let's see if I have enough paint to get this done. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, just couldn't even get my head right about it. I was really mad at myself. Mostly because this is a pearl and a translucent, so repairs and blends on this are what they say near impossible, but I will do the best I can, and let's see if I can get that blended out. And then because when I was trying to paint it, I got some orange overspray up in here. I'll take, and I got a tiny bit of white, and I'll dust some white on that, and then I'll wet sand this whole box, and then I'll just put enough clear on just this side to kind of get rid of that. I'm going to grab some water, grab the wet sand, and get to sanding this box. My arms are killing me. Which, back to, so mad at myself. If I wouldn't have been in a hurry, I would be just doing a light wet sand today and buffing it, getting it ready for buffing. But no, now I have to try to blend candies. Blending candies suck. Well, it's getting pretty close. Let's get it rinsed down, and then I'll get it dry, and then we'll see what it looks like. I don't need it perfectly dulled out like you would have like a perfect buff sand where you want an ice even total finish. We just need it kind of sketched up and roughed up enough that it will accept some paint. You can see like right here there's a little white. That's what I had up here. A little chunk of white paint dust or something got here and there, and because this was up high, we tried picking it out, and then once we picked it out, it was more obvious. We put a little dab of color on it, and it was even worse. And then I let it dry. I took my heat gun, heat gunned it, and then I tried to kind of airbrush some color over the top, and it crinkled the clear, and I just, yeah, went backwards really fast. That little run sanded right out, so that looks nice. I've sanded this guy completely down. I missed right there, so I have a couple more spots to sand on this, but I'm going to completely redo the tailgate. I hope I have enough paint to redo the tailgate, but that is, all I can do, because I have to make that nice. I'm really happy with, the color. I'm not going to buff out the entire truck. It's actually really in good shape. I've done some light sanding over here. There was some little nibs and some little high spots of stuff, pretty much from doing that repair that was over here that we did earlier yesterday. So now I'll hit that with 1500, and then this will buff out, and I'll buff that side out, and it will look just fine. I'm okay with that. Same with this fender. It'll buff out and look fine. And then I might just do a blend here, or I might have to repaint this whole side. I don't have enough paint to repaint the whole side, so I really got to hope I can get a blend and blend that out. So let's dry it off, see what it looks like. I'm going to take off my tonneau cover. All right, here we go. So sequence and dilemma and getting rid of that dark spot. This is a silver. Remember, it was a bright metallic-y silver with candy over the top. Pretty sure if we just start putting candies there, it's going to show up. But if I repaint just this section with silver, it's going to look different from there to there. If I redo the whole box, will it match the cab? So that is the dilemma and the what do I do. I think the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mask this orange off and hit this white and just spray some white in here, because I can easily patch the white, and the white's going to dry first. And then the tailgate's completely fooped. So that's ucked with a capital F. I have to redo the whole thing. I'm trying to think if I want to use this as a practice to do a blend in. That way I can see how the colors are going to blend when I go to the other side. So I think I'm going to fire this up, paint just the white, and redo all the white right now. While I do that, let the white kind of overspray onto the orange so I can mask the line off. And this guy's got to be all the way done. So we're going to redo the white on that, touch up the white there, and then mask the whole truck off. Well, I'll mask the cab off and get all this masked off when I mask this prep. And cross our fingers, folks. I really hope this works, because I don't have any paint. There's the easy part. Redid the white on the tailgate. And we'll just mask the white off so we can work on the orange. And we redid the white on that top rail, so that'll blend out and look pretty. So now we'll mask off the top and the bottom. And now the trick of the orange. I still don't know what I'm going to do. I just caught something too. I was going off of these body lines for the two-tone, the tail light, and that little centerpiece that goes there. But actually the two-tone is kind of in the middle of this. If you came over here where that body line goes on the Ford, it comes around here below the tail light, and it's at the bottom of the hinge. So I need to throw this tailgate back on the truck real quick. I honestly think I only have about that much white. It's a very small amount of white. I need more orange down here, so I'm glad I caught that. Now's the best time to fix it. Thank goodness I put the tailgate back on. So yeah, I need orange all the way down to here. I was doing it to this body line, which would have looked horrible once it was put back on the truck. So good catch. So now we have to put silver over this whole thing. So when I have the silver on, here's my decision. We're going to take and put a little bit heavier concentrate of a silver over the bad spot and blend out the silver so it just puts some metallic into the orange, so that when we go to put the color on, we'll do color heavier in this area, and then it should even out to that. I've got to do one more little blend prep to that and wipe that off, but yeah, that's the plan. Let's hope it works. I'll come over here. We'll hit just that spot. And we'll just kind of a little more air. All right, so there's the orange. And now we're going to turn our fan up, turn our air pressure a little higher. Let that sit, and then I will just do a lighter coat off the edge, a lighter coat off the edge. I think it'll work. Well, things are going good. That's all not done. Looks really nice. I think that colors with the 2 to 3 coats is going to have a nice color to it. Then here we've done it twice through there and then blended out into this. And I think I'm going to demask that, and it's ready for clear. So that's awesome. But the way my day's going, or this truck's going, I was spraying a single stage white on this, and I shook my cup, and the cup broke and went bloof, and it fell over the top of this and dumped paint everywhere, and dumped out on that, dumped across that. So that can sit there and dry, and then it can get wet sanded or just sanded down, and I'll put another coat of something else on it at another time. Whatever. I can't win for losing or lose for winning, but happy with that. That can get one of those. So there's that. I'm going to clean up some of my mess there, let this flash in the heat, demask, and throw some clear on it. Well, tailgate looks wonderful. The box side looks wonderful. So I think we're golden. I'm going to do one more light coating of clear just for the blend out, so I have a little bit more material there for some buff. And I am super happy. I didn't paint anything past this line, and I cannot see the color difference. So that is awesome. Half a day freaking delay or back up on it, but it definitely makes it look way better. Well, there it is. After the last few days and a couple weekends, this paint job kicked my ass. I've had harder paint jobs. I just, between getting it from the middle, having supplies I haven't used, not having near enough, trying to get it done in a timely manner to save some money and not stretch it out and take too long. It's done. They're going to assemble it, put it all back together. The colors are really sharp. I wasn't too keen on the colors when I saw them. I didn't think that white and orange would pop right, but it looks pretty decent. I don't mind it. You get in here, the doors came out nice. Now when you open the doors, there's no primer glaring through. When they sanded the doors before, remember there was bare metal all through here. So now we've got a decent jam for doing it all at once. I could have taken the seals out, spray the jams, do it different, but we also made sure we kept all our fin tags, door tags, and everything like that. There's a little bit of sunlight left in the day, so maybe I'll pull it out. Let's do a walk around with it outside, see how it looks. This repair over here, I couldn't be happier with it. Pearls are almost impossible to get a perfect blend, and you can't see it at all. The color difference that you're seeing right now is basically the shadows and the light. So that came out looking really great. Let's pause this for a second. Let's step it outside, take a quick final walk around. Look at this truck in the sun. Well, the sun just came out, giving me just a little bit of glow to it. Here we are outside. Now the box isn't even bolted down, so our body lines aren't perfect there because the box is a little crooked. But that orange really has a cool look in the sun. You can see how it kind of flops and changes. It's a pretty neat look. I kind of wish we could put it all together and get a final picture of it all done, but the customer is going to finish that himself. So that's where it's at. That's the end of the Ford. It put me behind, took way longer than it should have. There was a lot of my own mistakes on it, but hey, it is what it is. You guys have a great one. Love you all. Take care. On to the next.